showed. Investments in HBO Max, which launches in May, reduced AT&T's revenue by $1.2 billion. At the same time, the company lost more than 1 million customers of its other pay TV products, such as DirecTV. The company did lower debt as promised, but the mixed results across its various business units make it harder to believe that AT&T will be able to balance them all. I'm Tara LaChapelle. For more Bloomberg Opinion, please go to Bloomberg.com/opinion or OPIN Go on the Bloomberg terminal.
This has been Bloomberg Opinion.
You can hear Bloomberg Opinion commentaries every weekday at this time. Terminal customers can read more at OPIN Go. 6:39 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Small Business Report live with John Tucker. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning, Nathan. Flu season and concern over the coronavirus are creating challenges for small businesses. Commonly asked questions from business owners include, can an employer require a sick employee to leave work? And can you require a worker to get a flu shot or a vaccination? David Barron is a labor and employment attorney with the firm Cozen O'Connor.
Generally speaking, you can require someone to leave work if they're sick. Obviously, there's pay issues there depending on if they're exempt or non-exempt. There could be differences there. In terms of flu shots, that's somewhat of a tricky issue. Some states actually require flu shots for certain healthcare workers.
In the absence of state, local laws or collective bargaining agreements to the contrary, an employer may require a worker to use any accrued paid leave if they're absent because of sickness. When in doubt, check with your lawyer. John Tucker, that's your Bloomberg Small Business Report, Nathan.
All right, John, thanks. Some other stories we're watching. Royal Dutch Shell stock trading near a 2-year low. The oil company is scaling back share buybacks after fourth quarter earnings fell short of expectations. Shell is trading down more than 3% in Amsterdam. And here in the U.S., not a great year for college endowments. For the 12 months that ended in June, college funds earned an average of 5.3% on investments after fees, their worst performance in 3 years. This is Bloomberg.
In terms of coronavirus, business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
The big movements of folks were already over now. We've got every migrant worker in the country that needs to be in a
being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong. Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right. Use it. To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Exactly how bad it's going to get.
This is a Bloomberg
much worse than viruses we've seen before. So far,
have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric.
Absolutely.
The scheme is now even easier to qualify for. and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees. Like mine.
You're talking to folks about it.
I'm going to search TfL scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
All those managers
whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, start-up jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
But, you know,
At Argos, our new range is out now, online and in our new catalogue. Transform your home with our new stylish furniture and homewares range. And join in the fun with this season's latest tech and toys. With Argos, you get to go, subject to availability.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. Somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Witch Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Witch tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit witch.co.uk.
What do you do to be an everyday superhero, like Mary?
So I know it's tempting to pour used cooking oil straight down the sink, but I spoke to the local council and they said the best way to get rid of oil fat is to collect it once it's cooled down, of course, in a used container, and then you can scoop it out and put it in the bin.
Cooking oils and fats block thousands of pints every year. Save our sewers, rivers and seas by putting them in the bin where they belong. Visit thameswater.co.uk/bin. Together, we can care for the environment.
Official information 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
The first of 2 days of questions from senators in the Trump impeachment trial adjourned late last night, with Republicans appearing focused on bringing the trial to an end as soon as possible, and Democrats bothered by suggestions from the Trump's defense team that abuse of power or some personal quid pro quos are not impeachable.
It's those answers that really underscored why Democrats, during and after the proceedings, made clear they believed that the question and answer piece, at least the first part of it on Wednesday, underscored the need for witnesses and for documents.
Correspondent Phil Mattingly at the Senate. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in London this day before Britain's departure from the European Union. He's got meetings focused on a post-Brexit US-UK trade deal and Britain's allowing Chinese tech giant Huawei to play a role in the UK's new high-speed wireless network, which the US opposes. US stock futures following global stock markets down this morning over worries about the economic impact of the rapidly spreading novel coronavirus.
We'll dig into the latest quarter right after this.
I'm Michael Toscano.
Don't forget Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell.
Is that good for American finance?
What is happening with the headcount?
Right where it counts. Bloomberg Surveillance. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Today. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. It is 6:47 on Wall Street, and futures this morning are lower. We go to the first word breaking news desk for today's morning call. Here's Bill Maloney. Bill, good morning.
And good morning, Karen. That's right. U.S. futures under pressure as the coronavirus worries intensify. Dow futures currently down 212 points. S&P's dropped 24, while NASDAQ futures declined by 64. The U.S. 10-year yield falls to 1.55%. Gold is trading higher by 5. And Shanghai remained closed overnight. While European markets are also under pressure, led by 1.4% losses in France. Back in the U.S. on the economic front, at 8:30, GDP, core PCE, and initial jobless claims. After the bell last night, Facebook's revenue grew at its slowest quarterly rate ever. Shares are down 7% in the pre-market. Microsoft revenue beat the the highest estimates. Shares are going to open up at a record high. And Tesla's free cash flow exceeded $1 billion for the first time. Shares are up $60 in the pre-market. Regarding some of the earnings this morning, DuPont guided lower for Q1. And look for Altria, UPS, Verizon, and Coca-Cola to report around 7 a.m. In deal news, Unilever is weighing a sale of its global tea business. And wrapping things up, Arista Networks was cut to equate to Barclays, Apple raised to buy a DZ Bank, and Expedia cut to neutral. You can switch to Goldman Sachs. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Malone here.
Bill, thank you to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg type squawk on your terminal, SQUAWK. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Michael Barr with more on what's going on around the world. Michael.
President Donald Trump's defenders are asserting at his Senate trial that a trade of U.S. military aid for political favors, even if proven, could not be grounds for his impeachment. Trump's Republican defenders are trying to head off a witness from testifying, especially former National Security Advisor John Bolton. World health officials are expressing great concern that the deadly coronavirus is starting to spread between people outside of China. Bloomberg's John Tucker has more in this live report. And just in, Michael, a unit of the Carnival Cruise Line confirms a 54-year-old woman from Macau is suspected of having the virus and is now in isolation on board of one of their ships in an Italian port. The death toll for the spreading coronavirus has risen to 170. The cases in China jumped to over 7,700. India has now reported its first case. And as you say, the World Health Organization called a meeting of its emergency committee today to consider issuing a global alarm. They'll make an announcement at 1:30 p.m. Wall Street time. Airlines across the world suspended more flights to China. Tesla is expecting a production delay in China. McDonald's and Starbucks, they closed thousands of stores there. And Apple is preparing for supply chain disruptions. John Tucker, Bloomberg Daybreak. Michael. Thank you very much, John. In sports in the NBA, the Nets won, the Knicks lost. In the NHL, the Capitals lost. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg.
All right, Michael, thank you. We are live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studios, where it is now 6:50 on Wall Street, which means 10 minutes from now we get a policy decision from the Bank of England, the last one under Governor Mark Carney. For a preview, Bloomberg opinion columnist Marcus Ashworth joins us live from our London bureau. Good morning, Marcus. We've been talking about this. It's pretty much near even odds from the market whether we see a rate cut from the BOE in just about 10 minutes here. What are you expecting from Mark Carney and the rest?
It's chilly.
It is amazing to think that it is exactly a coin toss. It's quite ridiculous, really, for communication from the central bank to put it in this situation. I appreciate they like to have an optionality, but as recently as December, though, we were still theoretically believing that they thought that the next move in interest rates would be up. Two of the 9 members had voted for a cut, but 7 were sticking with the line that inflation was still going to be too high in 3 years' time.
TuneIn is your ticket to
and then this
glass
month,
NHL action.
Outgoing
with the NHL on TuneIn, listen
Governor
to every
Mark Carney say
one-timer.
that actual fact,
Hear every
things aren't
stick
quite so good, and therefore maybe we should cut possibly. And then 2 other members coming and with it equally sort of, or perhaps even more dovish
brings the excitement of the NHL
so,
home to you all
since then,
season
we've had some
long. Plus,
very
with
strong
NHL on
data.
demand,
Since the election
skate
and
back in time and
reappointment
relive
of
the
Boris
best
Johnson
moments
as
of
the
the
new
season
government,
while listening to
we've had
past
every
games in their
conference survey to
entirety.
shake a stick at.
Listen
It's
to the
always had
NHL
record
on
highs.
TuneIn.
Really strong purchasing managers capping that off.
Hey, NFL fan,
last week.
can't watch the game?
Why
Can't be
rush
there?
is my
No biggie.
Wait till May.
With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Big one is going to affect.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Decisions or at least influencing the right way. Having said that,
Search
Mark Carney
NFL today.
likes to go out with a bang. I suspect he probably wants to set a bit of a marker down on where he thinks Brexit may or may not go. And there is a momentum behind this call to catch up perhaps with the Fed's 3 cuts and overnight there's even more hint of more to come. So it's finely balanced. It could go either way. I hope they wait until May. Not say they shouldn't cut at some point if the economy doesn't recover quickly. But they could probably hit the time over. It's a little bit rushed.
That's certainly the case. So you're thinking that the business confidence data that we've seen of late outweighs some of the hard data that continues to show
something of sluggishness.
That's all back this global and cultural icon could be
really, that's not what I said.
Remembering Kobe Bryant.
Inflation was a bit weaker.
For podcasts and interviews of the legend.
Retail sales, it wasn't a great Christmas, but there you go.
12 players face off to win.
One data which is viewed also very strong is 206,000 jump in employment. That's US standards, and we are much more country. So, jobs are being created. Confidence, as I said, is absolutely rocketed up. That doesn't necessarily mean it translates into real economic output, but the signs are pretty clear that since this Brexit impasse has been broken,
but when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the
how do you think the outlook will be affected by continuing trade uncertainty, the future relationship with the European Union and the U.S.? There's been some friction there as well.
I think we've done it pretty well. Huawei decision, I think, has been very stage managed. The Europeans of doing exactly the same thing as the UK is. I think the US have taken it pretty well.
The 2020 All-Star Game and the NBA Finals
at the same time. I think things are going a lot better than perhaps could have been imagined. I don't also think that a rate cut here dramatically changes things for the UK, which is in pretty good shape, I think, anyway. It's just going to be a little bit more, but a little quicker. So it's not like it's the end of the world if they do cut rates today. I hope they perhaps think about it a bit more, but if they do, so be it.
Just quickly, the monetary policy report comes out after the decision. Do you think we'll see any further insights there?
It's their big quarterly monetary policy report. We should see what they're thinking. I just said I don't think they had enough chance to really assess the economy, but they are going to offer more insights. The same thing happens again in May when they'll have more insight. But yeah, we'll get to see a lot more what their current thinking is, which has clearly changed just over the last month.
Bloomberg opinion columnist Marcus Ashworth with us from our London bureau ahead of that Bank of England policy decision coming up now in just 5 minutes. Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and Lisa Abramowitz will have full coverage along with analysis from a former Bank of England member, Danny Blanchflower. That's all straight ahead. Karen?
All right, Nathan, thank you. Let's take a look at some of the most active stocks in early trading. And now we did see some earnings crossing the Bloomberg from Biogen. It beat analyst estimates. Raytheon also crossing the Bloomberg, as well as Coca-Cola. We'll bring you those in just a moment. Shares of Facebook, meanwhile, down 7%. The social network saw growth slow in the fourth quarter. Facebook posted record revenue, but saw user gains stall in the U.S. It all amounts to the slowest ever sales growth for Facebook. Shares of Microsoft up 3% after strong results. Revenue topped estimates by more than $1 billion thanks to strong demand for cloud products. Tesla shares are higher by 10% after a blowout quarter. The company posted record revenue to record its fourth profit in the last 6 quarters. Here with more, Bloomberg's Charlie Pellet.
The Model 3 maker's $7.38 billion in sales for the fourth quarter beat estimates and carried the company to its second consecutive quarterly profit. That sets a pattern with first-half losses in each of the last 2 years, giving way to positive results. CEO Elon Musk triggered an epic rally 3 months ago by claiming Tesla will be able to achieve industry-leading profitability by cutting costs and improving execution. He bolstered his case by opening a new China car plant in record time and accelerating the launch of the Model Y, which he has predicted will become the company's new bestseller. Charlie Pellet, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Charlie, thank you. Another early mover this morning. Apple shares the iPhone maker down 1% in early trading. The company is closing more stores in China as the coronavirus continues to spread. Those are some of the movers in the pre-market this morning, and Bloomberg customers can check out the early action by typing most U4GO on the terminal. It is 6:56 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Green Report. Here's Michael Isaac.
When kids outgrow their toys and the toys get tossed, well, that's a threat to the environment.
When a powerful threat rises, the Master Chief and Arbiter unite their forces.
Mattel makes this line of toys.
Halo Mega Block sets.
And it says it's coming out with new Mega Blocks that'll help the environment by addressing one thing. I'll tell you what that is. One word.
I just need to just so you
plastics. Plastics that often end up in landfills. So Mattel is launching 3 new preschool building sets. Polar Friends, Safari Friends, and Woodland Friends, which the company says will be friends with the environment because they're made of bio-based plastics made from things like plants, starch, or sugar instead of petroleum. Mattel looking to have all its toys and packaging 100% recycled, recyclable, or bio-based by 2030. That's the Bloomberg Green Business Report. I'm Michael Lysak.
All right, Michael, thank you. And futures are lower with S&P futures down 25 points, Dow futures down 219, and NASDAQ futures down 66. Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and Lisa Abramowitz straight ahead. For Nathan Haker, I'm Karen Moscow, and this is Bloomberg.
Influential.
How do you learn how to play like that?
Have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees.
We made USAA insurance.
I'm going to search TFL scrappage to see if I'm eligible.
She didn't waste any time.
You should do the same.
On her USAA
to the Mayor of London and TFL. Every journey matters.
USAA. What you're made of, we're made
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. Somehow, I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress.
Of your W2 and see
It's a proper nightmare.
you need to file.
That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Witch Test Lab.
Season of all.
We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
That's how long we'll take you to get
Which
something
tests
through
harder
cabbage.
so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Send message to Elise. Salut. Sorry, I'm running late. Just in the car now. Send.
You win the Gundle Finger.
I forgot the cake. Send.
What's a Gundle Finger?
Actually, great news. SatNav has found a new route. See you in 10.
Cabbage. Business funding.
Message on the move in the Citroen C1 and stay connected. Experience Citroen C1, available from £149 per month with initial rental of £149. Please drive responsibly. Citroen UK Limited is a credit broker, not a lender. Personal lease. You will not own the vehicle. Offer on field VTI 72 5-speed manual, 6,000 miles per annum. Guarantee may be required. Terms, eligibility criteria and return conditions apply. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Call given the data.
Which segment of Alphabet's business are most likely to come under scrutiny?
Get all the pieces.
We're getting mixed signals from governments.
He's failed to gain traction.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business Radio.com and iHeartRadio apps and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening. From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
The good news is the economy is strong. The bad news is the economy is strong.
Financial crises take a really long time to recover from.
Finance.
The strong job market's pulling people back in.
You can't have for very long in a monetary union without a fiscal union.
Investment.
What we preach is extreme diversification. It's hard to have sustained productivity without capital investment.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow on Bloomberg Radio.
From New York City, for our audience worldwide, good morning, good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance. Coming up on the program, China anxiety weighing on markets, global equities heading south. Chair Powell setting the stage for rates to remain lower for a whole lot longer. And as Facebook disappoints, results from Microsoft and Tesla deliver. From the Bloomberg
flu has made its way around the table.
Interactive Brokers Studio. Hello Thursday. Here is your Thursday morning price action. Equities heading south. S&P 500 futures negative 0.7%. We are down 24 points, Tom Keene. And in the commodity market, front and center for me, copper down for a record 12 straight sessions.
Here's what we're going to do for Global Wall Street. We'll do a lot of nuance on the data. It's correlated back today, unlike yesterday, really off the Powell press conference. The BOE, not much there, John, but I got to look at that one headline from Mr. Carney, seeing inflation CPI below target until the end of 2021. We didn't hear that from Jay Powell yesterday.
Yeah, rates unchanged at the Bank of England and catching up with reality as well, I think. Dropping guidance for limited and gradual tightening from Chairman Powell, Tom, front and centre for me. Rates are going nowhere.
In fact, they might be lower in the next few years.
Just what we've seen in the last 2 hours for Global Wall Street, we say good morning across America and worldwide. Just the 30-year bond is one proxy with that 2%, 2.00% number, sort of like Dow 10,000. We were at 204 when I walked in this morning. After I worked out, we're down to 202.64. Came in a basis and a half point. And it's a grind, it's a nuance, but it's there, John.
It's relentless over the last couple of weeks, Lisa, and the kinks are starting to appear in the yield curve again. 2s versus 5s inverted, 2s versus 10s, just 16 basis points, the distance between the two. A flatter yield curve.
What strikes me is you're seeing the 2-year yield actually rally, or decline rather, the price up rallying, and yield lower at the lowest now since October, but you're not seeing that lift inflation expectations, which raises a question about the reaction function, the capability of the central bank to respond.
We've got a wonderful guest coming in, but just one more thought here, John. You know, we're getting tons of books, folks. Lisa gets in like 40 books. You get in all those romantic novels, and then you get in your bond books with them as well. You get in the new Fabosi and all that. I get in all these wacko books. I open them up, I'm like, what is this?
I'm really not sure where to go with that.
In the middle of it is Ruchir Sharma's new book, and I really thought of him in this commodity meltdown. You look at Bloomberg Commodity Index, you look at it adjusted for inflation back in 1960, it ain't happening globally. I mean, it's like a Damien Sassower day. EM, Turkish lira, out again to that level. Turkish lira is out to a 6. Brazilian real breaks out almost near record weakness. Nobody's talking about this commodity meltdown. John, you mentioned copper.
Yeah, and if you look at actually the LMEX index, the sort of metals index traded on the London exchange, it's poised for the worst month since 2015. And this is really interesting because, you know, the Wuhan territory is a high manufacturing one. This is a hub. We're hearing it from Tesla that this could delay manufacturing. We're hearing this from Apple that it could delay manufacturing. And there's a question, you know, China was the engine of growth. This is going to trickle out and slow the economy in all of Southeast Asia, and that's what you're seeing priced into the market.
Steve Engel at his house, Skype today, our best Asia reporter, John, he was reading the JP Morgan tweet down to 5.6% on GDP growth.
The reality is output consumption, supply chains will be disrupted. British Airways out in the last hour or so, cutting flights, Tom, cutting all flights to China for a month now. No flights into China from British Airways for a whole month.
And there's actually a story out on the Bloomberg about how some smaller airlines may not survive this because you're seeing flights decline so much, particularly in China.
David Blanchflower with us, and this is so important. He is at Dartmouth College, is a former member of the Bank of England shop, and he joins us now with his wonderful work on labor economics. But Danny, what I want to, I know John's got 8 ways to go here. You never know why things change. You never know what the outside event is, like a virus. But all of a sudden, we're framing weaker growth. We're framing this, that, and the other thing. In your study of economics, when this is over, do you bounce back, or is there a lasting weakness to it?
Between 23 and 25%.
Well, normally we bounce back, and we bounce back pretty quickly. What's happened over the last decade is we bounced back really slowly.
Check on how
And
earnings
on
season is
some
faring more
measures, we
broadly
didn't
so far
bounce
and how
back at
markets
all.
are
So that's about the uniqueness of what happened in 2008. The question now is, what, as you rightly say, what's normal?
I guess set us up here.
And
Obviously,
the
we had a
evidence
market
suggested that
many
things were
people
looking
would
pretty
have
darn
said,
good at the beginning of the year. Wage growth in the US and the UK picked up to 4% or so. It looked like things were going back to normal. And now, during 2019, it turned back the other way. So the world has clearly changed in 2008, especially the labor market.
It puts a little bit more
it's
uncertainty
not
on the
clear where
story.
we're going in the future. And
There's a
obviously
big
the
difference
concern is,
when
what
unexpected
weapons do you
things
have
happen early in the
if and
cycle
when
versus
this
later in the cycle. Early in the cycle,
turnaround
things are
comes?
cheap, and there's a lot
So
of
I think
good things happening to
that's
offset it.
the thing
It can
going
look through
forward.
that. Later in the cycle, when valuations are higher, I think it just tends to add a lot more.
And in the UK, it looks like very quickly they backtracked on fiscal space.
Obviously, it's going to knock the stuffing out of near-term growth, particularly in China.
A pretty rough road
but as
for a
you
few
look
years.
through, I think that the question is
going to
a
be
year
weak,
from now,
and that may be
especially
overly
given probably the stimulus.
Danny, it's been really difficult to understand the reaction function of the Bank of England over the last couple of months. Much more straightforward to understand the shift of the reaction function over at the Federal Reserve. A massive change from Chairman Powell in the last 12 months. And to make it simple, Danny, they're basically telling us if things get better, we won't step in and cap the upside. But if things get worse, we're ready to do more. Your thoughts on what we heard from Chairman Powell?
The reason I sound bearish is because we're always looking at perception versus reality. Markets always focus on perception, which drives the near term, and we're focused on reality. And when there's a disconnect, I'm trying to point out when things are a little bit worse. So there's been this perception for the last 6 months that things are amazing. And I think I would say that, if you look at the underlying fundamentals, and we can bring in Steve and kind of have this economic debate, that things are showing a lot more signs of slowness and weakness, even still. And I think that right now, we're just at this weak point where things could be starting to turn around. You're seeing more of those signals outside the U.S. and then you get the hit to the biggest engine.
We're going to react to 2% growth.
But I guess the right thing to think is,
last summer when we were worried about a recession, sounds pretty good. With the stock market up 10% in the U.S., 2% is okay, maybe not.
And that's what's being priced into the market if you take a look at the yield curve, which is flattening yet again, now the flattest since November. I'm just looking at the 2-10 spread in the U.S., and I'm trying to figure out, is the implication here the Fed's going to make an error by not moving soon enough, or even worse, they don't have the ammunition.
What they'll do is when something like this happens, they'll sell with the hope of getting in at the right moment. I've yet to meet someone that actually does that consistent time, does that timing on those trades consistently and outperform. So I think what we're doing is focus on that longer-term story. And again, next couple quarters is going to look bad from a profits perspective.
I think the markets don't really have confidence
but with the stimulus that they're going to have as the
literally we're in this position where things get warmer.
Hopefully, things will actually look much better. So we're actually sticking to our China call. At some point, if this continues to weigh on markets, it might be a positive entry point. But then we're looking all around the world. I think most of our moves recently have been to shift and move diversification regionally outside the U.S. where things are looking a little bit better and they're cheaper. So you're
but I think the obvious thing to do was to make an insurance
about the buy right now.
It's quite clear they're going to have to
not
going forward. But
what we don't know in terms of the
doesn't look like they have a clue what they're up to.
All sorts of questions here. Denny Blanchard with us, of course, out of Dartmouth College, and just a lot going on in the markets. Futures are negative 24, Dow futures now negative 208. Bond market absolutely fascinating. You begin to think, John, about a 199 30-year bond here. What I see is a Draghi-like headline. We're standing now. We have monetary theorists giving us an x-axis, a timeline out within their forecasts. I mean, BOE cuts growth outlook, sees CPI below target until the end of 2021. What does it signal to people older in the room, Danny, that now we have governors, presidents, chairmen giving us a date way out? I mean, that's to me, that's a new thing started by Mario Draghi a year and a half ago.
I think that's going to be a big
it's the realization
we're actually owning China 30. A lot of our positions are 30.
Is it a realization? I don't mean to interrupt, Danny, but this is critical. Is it a realization they don't have a theory? They don't have a plan? They didn't listen to Blanchflower?
I think that's a normal reaction to be expected. The question is, when you get that leg down, is that a
of course you would.
I tend to be more of a buyer, given that everybody's focused on this without actually knowing the outcome. And so a lot of that negativity is priced in. And again, name me a widespread virus. I mean, everybody looks at the SARS example. Look at all these historical examples when that hasn't been a buying opportunity.
They have literally given up because the economists and
sometimes after a pullback, but
the people within the Fed and within the Bank of England essentially have no idea what they're doing. So essentially what they said is, okay, then let's predict that where we are will be where we'll be for a long time going forward until something else changes. And that's a dangerous position to be in because you don't have much ability to do something about it.
Danny, let me jump in. Because if there's one thing that they've got really wrong, it's something that you've been trying to correct them on for years. They believe that as unemployment rolled over, went through 6%, went through 7, went through 5, went through 4, they thought wages would pick up. They haven't. And finally, Chairman Powell, in response to that, in yesterday's news conference, turned around and said, well, maybe the labour market isn't as tight as we thought it was. How key is that change, Danny?
From Brexit, they talked about that's absolutely key, and I think I've been on with you for about 6 years now, saying exactly that. My new book is all about
here we go.
It
might be. It might be.
That was well done.
No, absolutely. I mean, the reality was they raised rates.
Let me talk about the Fed here, which kept its benchmark rate
unchanged,
like the BOE in the range of 1.5 to 1.75.
But
Fed Chairman Jay Powell said he saw continued global uncertainty from
overseas economies.
And it hasn't done that.
And mentioned
there was
a new possible risk we were just talking about, the
If you look at production and non-supervisory work,
it's a very serious issue. There is likely to be some disruption in activity in China and possibly globally based on the spread of the virus.
And I was just reading the minutes of the Bank of England that actually has now lowered its wage growth forecast.
Of course, the situation is
view about what unemployment
Danny,
is going to be.
just
this has been what they got wrong.
Just because of time, we've got to go, but we'll do an extended conversation. David Blanchflower with us up Dartmouth College. With our news in New York City, here's Michael Barr.
Tom, Lisa, John, thank you very much. The Senate impeachment trial of President Donald Trump resumes later today. Yesterday, during the Q&A portion of the Senate impeachment trial, Trump's defense attorneys made their case that while the president can't accept foreign campaign contributions, he could accept information from a foreign source. Trump legal counsel Pat Philbin.
The idea that any information that happens to come from overseas is necessarily campaign interference is a mistake.
Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut is among Democrats outraged by those comments.
There were audible gasps on the Democratic side when the President's counsel tried to claim that it's proper for anyone running for office in the United States to take information from a foreign country, from a foreign government.
Senator Murphy spoke to reporters during a late-night break for the trial. China says there are 170 deaths from the coronavirus, and more countries have reported infections, including some spread locally. India and the Philippines reported their first cases in a traveler and a student who had been both to a Chinese city where the new coronavirus first surfaced. South Korea confirmed a case that has spread. The World Health Organization is reconvening experts today to assess whether the outbreak should be declared a global emergency. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in London on the cusp of Britain's departure from the European Union for talks focused on a post-Brexit free trade deal. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on quick take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg.
Okay, right, big game. Michael Barr Sunday, big game. Tottenham, Man City.
I'm not sure that's the big game we thought you were going to bring.
I was going to say Tots by 7.
You're not familiar with the scoring in football, are you, Michael? Michael Barr, thank you. Bonds bid, yields lower. That's the story in today's session. We're down 2 basis points. 156 on a 10-year in the equity market. Futures rollover down 23 on the S&P 500. On the S&P, we're down 0.7%. This is Bloomberg.
6 points. Message and data rate may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at apple.com/terms. Please don't test and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64,000.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing. You. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA/SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Influential conversations from
half of the Dow and a third of the S&P.
Let's get this right, sir. You didn't see three men dressed as clowns take off in a van with a Renaissance painting because you were distracted by, and I quote, a sporty red compact SUV with a boldness grill, a sculpted bonnet with sweeping roof and diamond-cut alloys.
Beautiful, rare old companies.
So, you saw a Jaguar E-Pace. What about the clowns?
It is an earnings abundance.
Jaguar E-Pace, designed to steal attention. Search Jaguar E-Pace.
What if your email let you see a project's entire history and not just the messages sent to you? What if everyone else on your team could see it as well? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Move communication from inboxes to channels in Slack. Instead of seeing a partial set of messages about a project, everyone in Slack sees exactly the same thing and moves work forward faster. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com. Welcome to Nuffield Health.
At Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Clickdate by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow, and it's 7:17 on Wall Street. Bloomberg Daybreak is out of customer terminals, bringing you all the news you need to start your day. Let's get a check of the latest headlines of Hannah George at the Bloomberg Daybreak desk. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Karen. The World Health Organization may issue a global alarm today. That's after the death toll from the coronavirus rose to 170. Shares of Tesla gaining after blowout earnings. The company said it will ship at least 500,000 vehicles, while free cash flow exceeded $1 billion for the first time. Shares of Facebook and Samsung slumped after earnings. Facebook's revenue grew at the slowest quarterly rate ever, while Samsung's profit declined 38%. And Wall Street's biggest worry is lack of liquidity. That's according to a JP Morgan poll of 650 professional traders. A third of those say diminished market depth is their top concern. For news you need to start your day, check out Daybreak on your mobile phone on the Bloomberg Anywhere app. Karen.
Hannah, thank you. S&P futures down 22 points. Dow futures down 192. NASDAQ futures down 52. The 10-year Treasury up 6/30 seconds. Yield 1.56%. Yield on the 2-year 1.39%. NYMEX crude oil down 2.3% or $1.23 to 52.10 a barrel. And COMEX gold up 0.6% or $9 at 15.85 an ounce. The euro 1.1025 against the dollar. British pound 1.3081 and the yen 108.86. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom, John, and Lisa.
Karen, thanks so much. Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studios, thank you for being with us. 5 things you need to know. And we begin with not a surveillance correction, but a surveillance double correction. Rarely does this occur. Kit Hughes crushing me out at SocGen. Let me quote. Apparently, Tom Keene called the FOMC statement a nothing burger snooze fest. Okay, Kit, let me explain. Good morning, Mr. Hughes. Glad you're listening in London. Nothing burger was said by Michael McKee, and snooze fest was said by John Farrell. And yet I'm the one thrown under the bus.
Bringing me into this. I want no part of this conversation whatsoever.
Well, hold on a second. But it was a snooze fest, right? I mean, ultimately, nothing.
It was until it wasn't. And it's really important. It was a snooze fest in terms of statistical and market reactions.
Genuinely different safety records. Well, not safety records, but safety cultures.
Well, the airlines
Lagarde and the ECB. And John, 20 minutes later, like we may see with BOE today, it became interesting as they talk about rationalizing no inflation. And nothing burger was Michael McKee talking about a Fed hyper cautious with a statement that was exactly the same as
energy behind their safety culture.
A couple of things in many of these news conferences around the world, and many times the chairman or the chair or the president will try and make the news conference boring. That is the objective, as not to unsettle markets. And I thought it was really interesting watching Chair Powell handle the questions about the balance sheet. Really didn't cause any problems, any drama whatsoever, just kind of slapped them away. And I think he did a really decent job of that yesterday.
We have but one safety culture. It's not measured in one airplane being safer than the other. It's either safe or it isn't. That means it either flies or it doesn't. So it's pretty binary.
If we made news in that news conference and in that statement, it was around the story of inflation. And I think that's why you're bringing up the Bank of England this morning. Symmetrical. Looking to maybe overshoot the 2% number because we've been below it for so long. And as we have this big review at the Fed, before it's even complete, I think we're seeing evidence month after month that it's slowly starting to drift into the reaction function before the review, the strategy review, is done.
I'm struck, he's calling at me because I'm raising my hand. Honestly, I got to say, oh, stop it. I'm not looking like that. But I will say this. Right now, you're not seeing the market believe that they can actually do anything with that concession.
And the timeline shifted. That headline this morning, that Draghi-like headline from Carney, Lisa, the timeline, they're shifting out quarters. End of 2021, I'll be grayer then.
Well, and this sort of goes to the under.
Take the helm and ignite your spirit of adventure with a Sunsail holiday. Relax on a skippered yacht from sunny St. Lucia to the nutmeg-scented shores of Grenada. Or take charge with a bareboat charter along Dubrovnik's glittering coastline. With up to 20% off selected destinations, now is the time to book your Sunsail adventure. Sunsail. See the world differently.
November, I'm looking at the Elliott MEX poised for its worst month.
There she goes on London again.
Well, London Metals Exchange poised for its worst monthly return since 2015. All of this stemming from what's going on in China. And meanwhile, you're having South Korea, Citigroup downgrading their expectation for GDP, 0.3% total for the full year because of this virus.
You must listen to The Office in half an hour. Damian Sassower will join us. The real reflation, what do you do on the real yield today? I mean, this Friday.
Real yield's tomorrow.
You know, well, but you're going to a 4-hour meeting to prepare.
We have the editorial meeting today.
Editorial meeting. It's a shout fest. Pharaoh, go.
Look, we're getting really close to the lows of September. The early September lows are in and around 1.43%. Spreads were okay yesterday on high yield, but over the last week or so, we've seen some real widening. So we want to have a look at where credit is at the moment. We want to see the move of the last week, and we want to observe some of these important levels that we hit last year in early September and bounced off again and now reapproach.
Right now, I'm hearing a lot of analysts, though, saying that treasuries are overbought and that there's too much fear being baked into markets. It's not being reflected by the earnings that we saw out of the likes of Tesla, out of the likes that we saw of Apple. And I'm trying to square those two things. What, John, has materially changed to send yields?
Well, what does it tell you about the rally that not many people are embracing it? Does that tell you there's more to go? I don't know. I'm just thinking about this. I've seen the same notes as you have. I've seen people start to say we've gone too quickly, too far. This trend in 10-year yields predates the China growth coronavirus scare.
Good point.
It's been going for a few months now.
John Herman just out seconds ago here on his GDP call. He readjusted 2.06% off of consensus 2.00. He calls the consumer sluggish. Okay, we made a joke about it. Tots Man City. I mean, is it a point now in English football where the season's over for people as mediocre as the Tots of Tottenham?
It's over for the title race, I think. I think Liverpool have got this in the bag, but I think the top four race is still very much on. Big money to qualify for the Champions League. You want that top four place. Can I make an announcement? I'm very excited about this.
Please.
Wait. I looked at Scully and Scully today and thought I saw some changes there.
Nothing personal. Don't get too excited. Ronan Dunn of Verizon just reached out to me. Very, very good news. Bloomberg TV back on Verizon Fios in the United States. That's very cool. Been absent for a number of months. Back on Verizon Fios on your
That starts TV up at 9 a.m. every morning, right?
You should tune in at 9 a.m. Instead, you should tune in all day too.
I will just say, if we're talking sports, let's talk about New York sports, because Knicks, did you see that people were saying, sell the team? They were chanting
it's
with Jamie Dolan. Is it sad?
To me, it's sad. It'll be good to talk to Barry Ritholtz about that, who bleeds, the history of the Knicks.
311 record.
It's just a disaster. Yes. Really that bad?
Yeah, 311.
They were at Madison Square Garden chanting, sell the Knicks. That's difficult. Lots to talk about. We'll do more data checks today. Futures at -25. The London Metal Exchange, London.
Vatsal Shah is Senior Project Engineer at Mott MacDonald, a global engineering consultancy with more than 16,000 employees. He earned his PhD at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and as an adjunct professor, is helping NJIT students explore emerging technologies.
My focus is renewable markets, emerging technologies, the idea of floating cities. What are we doing to develop that? What will happen to the city on the water? Well, you're going to have waves hitting it. You're going to have solar. How are you going to develop plants? How are you going to develop vegetation and farming? That sort of thought process happens at NJIT. We actually plan out what will the city look like. How do we develop that? So in 10 years, we're actually ready to take on those challenges when we have our first development in the water. NJIT also has been doing a lot of work in self-healing materials. So taking the polymers and the new material that we have in our material sciences departments and putting them into things like concrete, things like steel, reinforcing our soil.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and...
Hello, I'm your captain for today's Virgin Atlantic flight. Please drop everything and pay close attention to the following announcement. The sail is now on. Our crew are ready to take your bags and stresses away. The cocktails are ready to serve, the movies are loaded, and we're all set for takeoff to the Caribbean. So, take your seat in our award-winning economy class. We're ready to go when you are.
The Virgin Atlantic sail. Fly amazing for less. For more details, visit virginatlantic.com.
I've always loved a kitchen experiment, especially smoothies. I've blended all sorts of mad combinations. Strawberry and charcoal, broccoli and chocolate. Not my best, that. But when I test blenders in the Witch Lab, it's not about flavour, it's about performance. Our tests use proper tough stuff, hard ice, strong veg, rough nuts. And the blenders that can hack it are the only ones we recommend for your kitchen.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Look at that. A riveting quest. A glorious opportunity. A scratch card. Yet he remains unfazed by the challenge, wavering at nothing.
Miss, please keep it down. We're in the quiet area.
Sorry. Here we are. The moment of truth. As he reaches...
Instant excitement with scratch cards from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Search Dream Big, Play Small. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30-gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
From New York City, this is Bloomberg Surveillance for our audience worldwide. We're live on Bloomberg Bloomberg Radio. Here's your price action this Thursday. Equity futures down 0.8. Near session lows on the S&P 500, negative 26 points. In the bond market, yields lower once again. We're down 2 basis points to 156. Remember the lows of early September 2019, 1 to 43. They are in sight as we roll over once again. 30-year yield down a basis point, 2.027% in foreign exchange. A bid where you expect there to be a bid into the Swissy, into the yen, and into the commodity market. Crude lower, copper negative for 12 straight sessions. Copper edges lower, down 0.2% on the London Metal Exchange, capturing that fear around Chinese growth, Tom.
And on commodities, you mentioned the lows of 1817. Commodities had a nadir in 2016. We're not there yet on a blended basis, the Bloomberg Commodity Index, but we're getting there quickly, rapidly, as they say. And I understand it's about China, and, with all good feeling, that could go away. It could become better in China, but there's no indication of that right now.
All the more impressive that you see a stock like Tesla up by 10, 11% in early trading. We are at $644.
I did not know that. We're up $144 since the last time you quoted it to me.
Before today's gains are counted for it, the Tesla shares, the rally so far this year, almost 40%.
Okay,
40%.
Is it a big short cover or is it legitimate long? I'm not qualified to answer that.
This is the most polarizing stock out there.
Look, they're forecasting another 500,000 deliveries in 2020. And not many people expected that. It's impressive. And as I said on Twitter last night, whether it's at 150 or 650, this is the most polarizing stock on the planet. There is no other one.
There always is one, and I guess I'm supposed to say it ends gloomy, but I see a lot of Teslas on the street. I was talking to one of our staff about New Jersey. He says they're crawling across New Jersey. People love them. That's all there is to it.
Well, there is a question of whether they can maintain this momentum and whether profits and free cash flow for 4 quarters out of 6 is enough to sustain, especially considering the fact that with Apple, everyone was talking about potential disruptions from the coronavirus spreading in Asia. And Tesla mentioned the same thing, and no one seemed to care.
We've been reaching out. We've had huge mail response to our coverage of sports here, looking at Tots Man City as well. And now to move to the important ideas. Maple Leafs pull it out against the Dallas Stars. This is one of the most polarizing things out there in any sport, John. It's a team that scores a zillion goals against a team that's like the best defense in the world as well. Luke, were you up late watching?
I was up late watching, but I have to admit I was doing double duty during the last period. I was also watching Below Deck, a very lovely Bravo show for those who are interested.
All right.
Just catching up on the extras there.
It's your entertainment section with Luke Howell. You're going. Perchance were you
asset reporter for Bloomberg News, joining us here in our interactive broker studios.
Perchance in your dalliance were you watching Asia markets open? And Asia markets, I'm sorry, it's back to correlation, and there's some serious weakness out there.
It's been great because Tuesday we didn't know why stocks were rebounding so nicely. Yesterday we didn't have a clue why any market in the world was doing what they were doing after the Fed. And now it seems kind of a return to the unknowns dominating. If we're in an environment in which kind of blowout earnings from the likes of Apple and Microsoft aren't enough to turn the tide definitively back to earnings as a driver for stocks, so we're still in this environment where we're kind of going back to correlations, as you put it, Tom. Well, that's not a good one. That kind of has never been a good one for the risk asset backdrop.
I'm looking right now at the emerging markets currency index, the MSCI, which is having its worst fall since August. Absolutely falling out of bed. And this comes in part in a weakening of the China yuan. And I'm wondering whether this time is different. I remember when it was reaching that 7 and crossing that 7 threshold per dollar, and everybody was getting really nervous. Why is this time not going to be different for that?
So, it could very well be the same. One thing I would look at as potentially being a little different in terms of the backdrop relative to last year is just the kind of the state of these currencies and different EM currencies versus the euro. If the euro isn't going to be as consistently on a weakening trend, and other safe haven currencies or funding currencies aren't going to as well, that's something that could just cripple the complex a little more broadly. And carry trades, I don't think, have had a good start out of the gate in 2020, to put it lightly.
Luke, what are people saying about Treasury yields heading back to the September lows of 2019?
A lot of people are, they're asking why. first, but they're saying that I can't fight this trend. A lot of people who've said, and BMO's rates team at Ian Lingon comes to mind here as saying, you know what, I was coming into this year expecting, rates to head up to 2%. I was expecting the bear steepener, the mild one that everyone was expecting, and now I can't. You can't do this anymore. You have to turn around and say, okay, how fast are we going to reapproach those lows? And that's a tweak and a switch he's made in the past week, and it seems to be a switch that all of Wall Street seems to be making as well. You find people kind of looking for different excuses or rationalizations. One I've heard is that the inflation language tweak yesterday almost guarantees a Fed framework tweak that will result in a rate cut at the same time as the framework tweak in June. That's something I've heard bandied about. Another is just with the lack of success of the bear steepener out of the gate, that the kind of the short 10-year part of that is being so aggressively pulled in, and that it's been so aggressively pulled in, it leads to that kind of negative convexity hedging we like to hear about with mortgages that accentuates the move to the downside. But notice how nothing I'm saying, and like people
understandable.
Notice, I would say, has to do with the economy. People are past the idea of saying, okay, the downside risks of the coronavirus are such that we can take 20 beeps off the treasury yield.
Let's pick up on some of
this. John, unpack this.
I'm going to try and unpack some of it. You've done a great job over the last year or so in your weekly column unpacking the individual components of, say, a 10-year yield. Let's do a little bit of a clinic now. Just undress that for us. What's happening in each and every individual component?
Not like
what
below
makes
deck.
up
Undress
a
it like the fixed income market.
Let's not get in trouble here, Luke.
So what's been happening in 10 years is, especially coming into the year and in the first few sessions of the year, we all know oil did not have exactly a great start to the year. Yet what was leading the decline in 10-year treasury yields was definitively the real yield component, your inflation adjusted yield. Since then, and since the risk off we've had this week, it's especially Monday, break-evens absolutely tumbled. If you look at copper, down a dozen sessions in a row now.
Pricing in lower inflation now.
Yes. So now it's almost an equal split. I think we're down 16 basis points of the decline in the 10-year is attributable to the break-evens, and 20 basis points attributable to real yields.
This is really timely, folks, because of the energy I heard, and John, you heard from Bill Dudley yesterday, going very much towards Mr. Kawa is. Mark Carney out with a headline right now, says margin of slack greater than previously estimated, and that comes into that compression in yields away from all the other news.
This is a massive change for the Bank of England in the last year. For much of the last 12 months, they've been telling us that maybe the UK economy, the British economy, was at the speed limit. There wasn't much spare capacity slack left, and for that reason, they'd be bumping up against supply constraints and might need to raise rates. Now, you flip that on its head. Slack, that means rate cuts. That's a huge change at the Bank of England, Tom, in just 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this, Luke, and Lisa, jump in here, please. I got 8 ways to go.
To me, I'm struck by the fact, coming into 2020, people are saying this would be the show me the numbers, show me the money kind of year from earnings. So far, we're getting it. When we look at the earnings picture, it's been pretty good. Yes. Forecasts actually getting revised upwards. So you can pick your narrative. Today, the narrative is negative based on what we're seeing with the coronavirus. How quickly, Luke, could that shift if the coronavirus shows signs of perhaps bottoming out here, or at least peaking in terms of the number of cases, and people start to price in what we're actually seeing in earnings?
So I think if you look at the extent of the growth value discrepancy we've seen this month, growth stocks are beating value stocks by the most ever, going back to at least the start of 2000, dawn of the new millennium. So that backdrop, if you look at, that's generally what the bull market has been, right? It's been like not crazily broad leadership, and it's been a lot of the mega caps carrying us up. It's not hard to see a situation in which the kind of macro existential risks fade, and we realize that all these companies we were counting on to grow at a zillion % are still kind of growing at close to a zillion %.
Luke, John emails in from Coventry and says below deck or below deck med, which is better on Bravo TV?
I gotta say I haven't seen below deck med, so I can only go with the generic at this point.
Okay, Luke Kawa, thank you for the entertainment report. Mr. Kawa, seriously writing terrific market analysis. You're a win window into it there about how you tear apart a given yield to understand the dynamics of said yield. 10-year yield 1.5565 right now. The Bloomberg NJIT STEM report brought to you by New Jersey Institute of Technology, a top 100 national university in the latest U.S. News and World Report college rankings. Learn more at news.njit.edu. Here's John Tucker.
All right, Tom, John, and Lisa, let's see what's making news in science, technology, engineering, and math. Researchers have snapped the most detailed images of the sun using a new advanced telescope in Hawaii. The images captured by the Inouye Solar Telescope show tiny features in the sun's magnetic field which have never been seen before. The data will help scientists to better understand space weather, which can have negative impacts on Earth, such as communication systems and power grids. NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope signs off today. Since it launched on August 25th of 2003, it's provided unique contributions to science. Among the highlights of Spitzer's 16-plus years of discovery was a never-before-seen ring around Saturn. The geometry of the sun, Earth, and the telescope is making communication and management to the telescope just too difficult. And as the World Health Organization meets today to decide if it will coordinate the response to the coronavirus, it's worth a look at some definitions. The word epidemic is the rapid spread of infectious disease to a large number of people in a given population within a short period of time, usually 2 weeks or less. Now, an epidemic may be restricted to one location. However, if it spreads to other countries or continents and affects a substantial number of people, it may then be termed a pandemic. And that's today's Bloomberg NJIT STEM report. Tom.
And John Tucker, thank you so much. Mark Carney's still out with the BOE making headlines. He says inflation to remain notably below target this year. Now with our news in New York City, here's Michael Barr.
Tom, John, Lisa, thank you very much. Another day of questions will take place today in President Trump's impeachment trial. Yesterday, the president's legal team said the president could accept information from a foreign source and that this cannot be an impeachable offense. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, a defense counsel, says that he was asked about the risks with impeachment.
Were a president of the United States to be removed today, it would pose existential dangers to our ability to live together as a people. The decision would not be accepted.
Representative Adam Schiff calls the defense's latest argument a remarkable lowering of the bar.
It's been a remarkable evolution of the presidential defense. It began with none of that stuff happened here. It began with nothing to see here. It migrated to, okay, they did seek investigations of the president's political rival.
A vote on whether to have witnesses in the trial will take place Friday. Australia's government is defending its plan to send citizens evacuated from the epicenter of China's new coronavirus emergency to the remote island used to hold asylum seekers and convicted criminals. Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton says that Christmas Island strikes the right balance between supporting Australians stranded in China and protecting the wider population. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. John.
Michael Barr, thank you very much, sir. Here's your price action this Thursday to get you up to speed ahead of the market open in New York City around about 1 hour.